everyone, and welcome to the 30-Day Summit, where Russell Brunson has brought together a collection of his top 2 Comma Club and 8-figure award winners to share with you how they would literally survive and begin to rebuild their business in just 30 days if they lost it all. My name is Bailey Richard, and right now I'm delighted to be speaking with Myron Golden. Myron is a best-selling author and an in-demand speaker and trainer in the areas of sales, marketing, business development, and financial literacy. Despite the fact that he contracted polio as an infant, Myron is a black belt in the martial arts and has had to overcome many obstacles to succeed in his life and career. Myron has assisted his clients in building many businesses that do as much as $10 million per year in revenue. Myron teaches also everyday people to become wealthy, often using skills they already have. If you will open your mind and allow him to share with you, his principles can truly change your life for the better. So, Myron, welcome to the summit.
Thank you, Bailey. Appreciate that. It's going to be fun.
It absolutely is. So, anyone who follows you and knows what Myron Golden is all about knows that you allow the Bible to be your guiding principle in business and in life. So briefly, I was wondering if you could begin by walking us through your 4-stage overview of your 30-day plan, the preparation, implementation, monetization, and optimization process, and then also how you arrived at this particular 4-step process for your plan.
Yeah, so basically, I've been reading the Bible and studying the Bible for over 40 years, since I was 16 years old. And so I guess I gave away my age on that one. But I discovered that the Bible is not a book about religion. The Bible is a book that is so practical. And if we will apply the principles from the Bible, they will work every single solitary time. And so I discovered this when I was a teenager, and I've been practicing it ever since. And so one of the things that I discovered as I was thinking about this whole process, and we're talking about how to be productive and how to be productive in a very short period of time, the thought that came to my mind was, well, nobody has been more productive than God, creating everything out of nothing in 7 days. So we might as well follow that blueprint. So that's what I based my entire business. I based my entire business on biblical principles, and I based my entire 30-day blueprint on biblical principles as well.
Fantastic. So in this 30-day blueprint, you essentially boil all of your actions down into 4 different phases: the preparation, implementation, monetization, and optimization. So could you walk us through those phases real quick?
Sure. So preparation is basically about seeing the end from the beginning, knowing where you're going before you set off on the journey. Nobody would ever go on vacation and say, well, I'm going on vacation. Where are you going? I don't know. We'll just decide when we get there, right? So most people start out with a destination in mind. So the first thing you got to do is figure out where you want to go, and then backwards extrapolate or reverse engineer how to get there. So that's the preparation piece. In the preparation piece, who am I going to serve, right? How am I going to serve them? And when I say, who am I going to serve, I've got to look for what I call a hole in the marketplace. I've got to look for something that's missing in the lives of a large group of people. And when I look for that thing and I find it, then I start asking myself the question, this is all part of the preparation. How do I help them resolve that problem? How do I help them relieve that pain? And then the next question that I ask in the preparation stage is, how do I help them reach their potential, which obviously is not being reached right now while there's this hole in that part of their life. So that's preparation. Implementation is after I evaluate what has to take place, I begin to put those things in place. I'm going to have to put my funnel in place. So I'm going to obviously need ClickFunnels. I'm going to have to put whatever product or service in place. I'm going to have to generate leads. So I have to implement putting these things in place that allow me to generate leads. And then something that allows me to develop a relationship with those leads, and then something that allows me to convert those leads. And convert basically means convert them from leads to customers, people who pay. And then after they buy something from me, really one of the keys, a lot of people don't get this, one of the keys to becoming successful in business is when you give somebody something or sell somebody something, you have to wow them. You have to blow them away, right? And so that's a part of the implementation stage as well. And then what we do is we ascend them, and ascending means ascension is not about selling people half-done products, and ascension is not about useful but incomplete information. Ascension is about understanding that every time you solve a problem, they go into a new place that has new problems that you can help them solve. So, for instance, this coming weekend, or this Thursday and Friday, I'll be doing my 2-day speaker training where I teach people how to sell from the stage, right? So after I teach them how to sell from the stage, now they've got another problem, right? What is that? Well, they've got to figure out how to get on more stages. They've got to figure out how to attract more people to their events. So every solution creates new problems. Every answer creates new questions. And so that's what the ascension piece is about in the implementation. And then lastly, monetization. You got to figure out a monetization strategy. I believe the 3 best monetization strategies that I like to use are: 1, some kind of continuity monetization strategy where people pay you. You do the work basically once, but you get paid on it over and over again. So that's continuity monetization. And then you have to have some kind of what I call daily pay monetization. Okay. And that basically is something that's not super crazy high priced, but it's something that's going to be, for most businesses, whatever their main product is, right? And then lastly, something high ticket, something that sells for, different people think of high ticket in different ways, right? So for the average person just starting out, $1,000 would be high ticket. $2,000 might be high ticket. For somebody who's been in the business for a longer period of time, high ticket might be 5, 10, 15, 20, 60, 80, $100,000. It just depends on how big the solution is. Now, when we talk about monetization, one of the things that we have to understand is that price really becomes irrelevant when you understand that if the value is this big, I'm holding my hands way out now, you can't see them, right? The value is this big and the price is this big, they always buy. And it doesn't matter what price you put in this space. So the price in this space might be, like my speaker training this weekend, $20,000. That's a big number in a small space, right? But if you can stand up on stage and do, as we've done in the past, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars in sales in an hour or less, well, then $20,000 is very small by comparison. Does that make sense? So that's the preparation, the implementation, and the monetization. Oh, and the optimization. The optimization is when we find out. See, I'm listening, but sometimes I gotta reset. So the optimization is when I look at what's working and put more attention into that, and I look at what's not working and I put less attention into that. I find out what's working, I put more money into that, and I find out what's not working, I put less money into that. And that's true for ads, it's true for funnels, it's true for live events, it's true for any part of my business. I want to make sure I'm always analyzing to figure out the Pareto principle, right? You get 80% of your results from 20% of your effort. So I want to find the 20% that I'm getting most of my results from and focus more on that and focus less on the 80% that I'm not getting most of my results from.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for giving us an overview of those 4 phases, because what we're going to do for the rest of the interview is do a deeper dive into each one of those sections. So I'd like to start at the beginning with the preparation phase, which you say lasts from days 1 to day 3. However, even though it takes up the shortest amount of time in your 30-day plan, you say that it takes up the most energy of all of the phases. So I'd love to hear from you exactly what's going on during these 3 days.
Yeah. So in the preparation stage, you've got to think about, okay, who am I going to serve? And you really have to put yourself in their shoes. I tell people oftentimes that what you have to do, the greatest attribute of somebody who's successful in business is you have to love people. In other words, you have to love them so much that you only sell them things that are in their best interest, right? So you're thinking about who these people are that you're going to serve, and you're thinking about what their problems are. Like what is the challenge that they have? I was just at a live event this past weekend with one of our Inner Circle members, with Alex D, and there were several speakers there. And when I watch other speakers, I notice that most speakers struggle with the same thing. And so when I'm analyzing who I'm going to serve, I have to look at where they're struggling. And most speakers, for instance, struggle with not knowing the difference between convincing and persuading, not knowing the difference between how much should I teach and how much should I sell, right? And they don't understand the nuances as well as the big picture things with regard to that. What happens when you're doing that is you have to come to specific realizations about how you are going to help those people. So literally, it may take you 8, 10, 12, maybe even 16 hours a day for 3 days to figure out how you're going to serve these people. And then, okay, what am I going to sell them? And you want to map it all out so that you don't have to stop in the middle to figure out what to do next. You literally get started at the beginning. You have the whole thing mapped out, and you map it out all the way through the end so that when you begin to implement, you implement from beginning all the way to the end without having to go back and do the preparation part. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. One of the things that you talk about in your 30-day plan as being a part of this process is taking an inventory of your resources. Now, that's something that we've definitely heard other speakers on this summit talk about as well, but specifically in your 30-day plan, you take a little bit of a different approach, and you say that it goes a lot more beyond just evaluating your monetary resources or even your own skill sets, but that also taking an inventory of your resources means evaluating your people resources, who it is that you know, your testimonial resources, your press and media resources. So would you like to touch upon this?
Sure. So, for instance, like when you talk about resources, people you know, you can look at, okay, so when you're in your preparation stage, once I get all of the solution stuff figured out, once I know what I'm going to sell people, once I know what I'm going to teach them, okay, who already has access to my audience that I can reach out to and offer to do a joint venture with, by letting them know I have an offer that converts if they've got an audience and they'd like to split the money with me. And I've been doing that for what feels like forever, since 2003. So selling your programs to other people's audience, especially other people's audience who you're not in direct competition with. A part of thinking about that aspect is looking at, okay, who has my audience right now and they solve a problem, but they don't solve the problem I'm going to solve, where they could benefit from me reaching their audience. That's a part of that. You think about things that you know, the media contacts that you have. I literally, when you understand how people think, you got to really study how people think and how questions arise in their minds. I think about how for my book, From the Trash Man to the Cash Man, for instance, how I got on the front page of our local paper with a phone call. Right? Because that was a resource that I had. What was the resource? Well, I saw an article in the paper about that this woman, Nancy, whatever her name was, she wrote an article called, "You have to have 1 million of these," and there was a picture of a $1 bill to buy one of these, and it was a house. So she did a story on $1 million homes, how they're selling, who's buying them, et cetera. So if you understand media, you understand that it's harder to find an interesting story than it is to be an interesting story. Right? It's harder if you have a radio show, it's harder to find somebody interesting to interview in front of your audience than it is to be somebody interesting in front of somebody else's audience, right? And so what I did was I called Nancy, I called the paper, and I said, "Can I speak with Nancy Smith?" I don't even remember what her last name was. I said, "Hey, Nancy, this is Myron Golden, and I read your story on $1 million homes, how you have to have 1 million of these, buy one of these, and I thought it was a great article." And I don't even read the paper. Right. But I saw this article. I thought that sounds interesting. And so I bought the paper. It literally sat on my desk for a couple of months before I even looked at it. Then I read the article. I said, wow, that was a really good article. And it just so happened that I had recently bought $1 million home. Right. And so I live in this town where I used to be a trash man. And now I just recently bought $1 million home. I said, Nancy, I called her up. I said, Nancy, I've got a great follow-up story. She's like, oh, okay, what's that? And she said, I said, I read your article. It was really great. I really enjoyed it. She said, thank you. I said, I've got a great follow-up story. She said, oh, yeah, what's that? You know, kind of like, give me a break. You don't know what a follow-up story is. I said, well, I used to be a trash man right here in Harrisburg, and I used to drive a garbage truck for $6.25 an hour, and I just recently bought $1 million home. She said, wow. I said, you know, back during the time when I drove a garbage truck during the day, that was my full-time job. I had a business at night, and I've recently become very successful in my business where we do in excess of $1 million a year. She said, wow. And then she said, you're not doing anything illegal, are you? I said, girl, quit tripping. And so she said, okay, well, I'm going to set up a time when we can come out and interview you and interview your wife and take pictures of you and take pictures of your wife. They did a whole front page and back of the front page story on me and my wife the same day that Penn State was in the newspaper, because I lived in Pennsylvania at the time. Penn State was in the newspaper, Penn State University. Osama bin Laden was in the newspaper, and they got a little bitty piece of front page. Both of those did. And I got the whole front page and most of the back page. And I did that with a phone call because I understood this concept. It's easier to get on television than it is to find somebody interesting on television to interview. It's easier to get in the paper. It's easier to get on the radio, et cetera. So that's what we talk about when we talk about resources. I just reached out to a guy yesterday, for instance. I'm not a social media mogul. I mean, I've got some followers and some fans and all that stuff, but I'm not like some big social media mogul. So I reached out to somebody yesterday, and basically he introduced me to a guy who has millions of, I think 4 million followers or something, 4 million followers on Instagram. And for a nominal amount of money, I can pay this guy and literally can get a couple of thousand people to register for a webinar. And if we get half of those people to show up, we can do one webinar and generate $250,000 in sales with one webinar. So that's the kind of things I'm talking about with resources, connections that you have, things that you know that you don't think are valuable, things that you're good at. All of these things are resources that you have.
Fantastic. So there's so much going on in that preparation phase, but I want to keep moving on in your 30-day plan to the second phase, which is implementation. You say this takes you from days 4 to day 12 and includes things like the systemization of value generation, lead generation, and promotions. So I was wondering if you could touch upon the specific actions that are happening during the stage 2 implementation phase of your process.
Sure. So, if you understand that to grow a business, you have to do 5 things. 5 things grow any business. You grow it by 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x, 100x, whatever. If you do these 5 things well, you have to generate leads. Okay. Back in the olden days, back in the 80s and the 70s, we used to do prospecting, right? So we go out and look for people. But I tell people lead generation is not about looking for people to sell stuff to. It's about making yourself more findable to people who already want your solution. Okay, so that's lead generation. Lead generation, then lead cultivation. You cultivate a relationship with those leads by perpetually giving them value and wowing them with your free value. For instance, what I do, a couple of the things that I do in the whole making yourself findable and lead generation space, you have to be okay giving without asking. And a lot of people are not okay with that. They want to give, and as soon as they give, they want to get something back. But you have to be able to give without asking, because if you understand that when you give somebody something, if it's valuable, you don't have to ask them to want more. They're going to ask you for more, right? So here are a couple of things that I do with regard to that. I have a conference call that I do every Tuesday night, right? So that's free. I don't charge anything for that. But I let people know I'm going to have it. I post it on my Facebook page. I send out an email. I send out a text message broadcast. We have 100 to 200 people who show up. I teach them some business principles, right? So that's one thing. I do a Bible study for business owners every Wednesday morning. I don't charge anything for that either. I do it on a conference bridge and broadcast it on Facebook Live into a Facebook group that's grown to over 1,400 members, right? So that's free. I don't charge people anything for that, okay? Which, by the way, so now that brings me to just the whole preparation. I got to back up to the preparation stage. My older brother is a salesman. He sells cars. And one of the things that he always said, my brother Jeff, he always said, you cannot draw water from an empty well. So if you are going to be a teacher, if you are going to be somebody who's going to impact other people's lives, if you're going to be a coach, then you got to constantly be learning, because if you don't, you're going to run out of something to say. So anyway, just thought I'd parenthetically throw that in there. Okay. So, because I'm teaching on Tuesday night, I'm teaching on Wednesday morning, right? So that's 2 free things that I'm doing every week. And it's like, wow, what else? Well, I also have a podcast, right? And I do 1 podcast a week. I'm not one of those daily podcast dudes because I don't have time to do that, but I do a podcast every week. I launched my podcast like a little over 2 months ago, like literally 2 months ago in 3 days. And last time I looked, which was over the weekend, we had over 1,600 downloads and we only have 7 episodes. So what's that tell you? People are interested in the content. You got to create content that is interesting to people. And it's only going to be interesting to people as they see that it helps them. Not as you see that it helps them, but as they see that it helps them. So that's what I mean by lead cultivation. So I'm not asking for anything in any of those platforms. I'm just giving, and people are following me. Okay. And what happens when you do that, as soon as you do begin to make an offer, which is going to bring us to the next point, is lead conversion. As soon as you do make an offer, what happens is people say, wow, he blew my mind with his free stuff. If he blew my mind with his free stuff, or if she blew my mind with her free stuff, man, how much are they going to give me if I pay them? Right? It's going to be great. Right? So that's the lead cultivation piece. And then lead conversion. That's making an offer. And I'll go into more detail about that during the monetization part, but making an offer. So the reason we call it lead conversion is because our goal is to convert people who are just interested, people who are just leads, into people who are actually paying us for solutions, for better and higher value solutions. Okay. So that's lead conversion. And then, so now once you convert them, they're no longer a lead, right? So they're now a customer. So the next piece is customer ascension. They bought my $100 product. I solved a $100 product. I solved a $100 problem for them. Now I'm going to solve a $1,000 problem for them. And so that's called lead ascension. And then eventually maybe solve a $10,000 problem for them, right? So that's lead ascension, customer ascension rather. And then the last piece is customer retention. How do I get my customers to buy from me more often? Well, one of the best ways to get your customers to buy from you more often is to have a continuity program. It's a membership site. It's access to a private phone call that you do, or a private video coaching thing that you do on a weekly basis, whatever you can charge people anywhere from, you can be like Netflix was when they started out, $7.99 a month. They built a multi-billion-dollar company on $7.99 a month. So if it can be $10 a month, $20 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month. I've been a part of membership programs where I've paid as much as $800 a month to be a part of a membership program or a continuity program. So I've been a part of masterminds where they had monthly payments, $2,500 a month for a mastermind, and, stay in those masterminds for years. So you can just look at your continuity programs. And I personally have a continuity program right now that's $3,000 a month, right? And we've got paying members. That's pretty cool. You don't have to have a lot of members. You get 4 members at $3,000 a month. Well, that's $12,000 a month. You get 100 members. Well, that's $3 million a month, or $300,000 a month rather. So you see what I'm saying? So there is a definite process to the implementation portion of those are the things you want to be implementing during your implementation stage.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this third phase, this monetization phase. There's so much that we could possibly discuss, so I'd like to really focus in on what you mentioned in your 30-day plan, creating a course. But what I found so specifically interesting about the way that you approach your course creation is that you have a strategy that says you should not be the only one creating the course content.
Oh, absolutely not.
Right, so I'd love to dive into this a little bit more if you wouldn't mind.
So not only do you not have to create all the course content, but you don't want to create the course content before you sell it. You want to sell it first. And when you sell it, you're selling it based on the outline of the content that's going to be in it. And then you sell it as a multi-week masterclass. So, and I've created courses where I created an accelerated learning course, right? So there's this guy, his name's Matt DeMeo. And Matt, if you look him up, you'll see that he does really cool accelerated learning things. Like he'll be in a room of 300 people and he will have just met these people and he will have everybody's name memorized, right? Yeah. So I've seen him have an audience and have like 30, write out 1 to 30, and he would have people in the audience just yell out random things. Somebody else would write it on the board. He would be facing the audience. He'd never look at the board. They'd write out 30 different things. Right. And so Matt writes them out. Somebody writes them out on the board. Matt memorizes it. Like he learns it on the spot. And so he would go back after everybody's done and he would name all 30 of those things in order. Right. And then he would have people call out a number. What's number 18? And he would tell people what number 18 was. What's number 6? He would tell them what number 6 is. Like literally, he would learn it as fast as people would spit it out. Right. So I had Matt DeMeo be a teacher in my accelerated learning course, which is called The Faster You Learn, the More You Earn, right? So I taught part of the course. Matt taught the other part of the course. I created another course called, and by the way, I even did like an iPhone app back in the days when I used to teach network marketing, right? So if you can imagine this, I did an iPhone app called the MLM Pocket Coach, right? So it was an app that had 11 or 12 recordings by some of the top network marketing trainers in the world. And I got all of those network marketing trainers to just send me one of their audios for free that I could give away, that I could put in my app. And then I sold the app for $2.99. So, and they didn't get it. They didn't do it for the compensation. And some of you are probably wondering, well, why would somebody give you their content so you can sell it and then you don't get any of the money? Well, because then they get exposure to your audience. They get exposed to your audience, and then your audience can come and follow them. So it's called syndication, right? That's why people do that. I'm a part of other people's courses, other people's trainings. For instance, Alex D, a member of our inner circle, he's got a business opportunity that he's affiliate marketing business opportunity that he created for the people who sign up as their members. And their members pay them $6,000, $12,000, or $21,000 for a different affiliate marketing package, right? So Alex approached me over a year ago and said, Myron, we'd really love to have some of your content to put in our back office. And he didn't offer to buy it from me. He asked me to give it to them for free. And I was a little hesitant, I'm going to be honest with you, because he was asking for a lot of content. But I gave him a lot of content, right? They put it in their back office. And so a lot of people are worried about like reaping the benefit of that right away. I didn't reap any benefit of it at all for over a year. And now this past weekend, I just spoke at Alex D's event, and in an hour, I did $58,000 in sales, right? So that's because a lot of those people, they already knew who I was. They had already listened to my content. They didn't come search me out, but Alex invited me to come back and speak at his event. And I spoke at his event, and literally, when I made the offer, people ran to the front of the room, jumped up on the stage, didn't even take the stairs so they could be a part of this offer that I created. So that's why somebody would give you content to put in your course. And you could literally, well, think about this. This very summit is the same exact thing. Russell Brunson's putting together this 30-day blueprint, right? And so he got me to contribute to it. He got 30 other people to contribute to it. So now the people who take part in this offer, they're going to get benefit from 30 different experts in the same arena, but 30 different perspectives. It's just a brilliant way to create a product.
Absolutely. And I think even people who have never heard of or tried this methodology before can clearly see what some of the benefits would be. Now, one of the things that you do mention is that you wouldn't financially incentivize the course contributors to participate in this product creation. However, you do mention offering affiliate commissions to people who would want to promote this product to their audiences. And in fact, you say that this is one of the primary ways that you would be able to get your product out there and to start bringing in revenues. So I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
So one of the things that I learned, another biblical principle, okay, in the scripture it says, one will chase 1,000, two will put 10,000 to flight. Well, what does that mean? Well, one of the things it means is that two people can produce 10 times the result as one person by themselves. So we think that two people could produce 2 times the result, right? But from a biblical perspective, two people can produce 10 times the result. And here's what I discovered a long time ago. 50% of a big number is way better than 100% of a small number. In fact, 50% of 10,000 is 5 times more than 100% of 1,000. So literally, when you partner with other people, I believe we live in the partnership age. Apple figured this out. They said, if you create content for our users, we'll pay you 70%. Amazon figured it out. They've said the same thing. So even big corporations now, that if you wanted to make money from them, there was a time in the past you'd have to be an employee. Now you can become a strategic partner with multi-billion-dollar corporations, sell your stuff to their audience, and they give you most of the money. So I love the idea of affiliate marketing. I love the idea that if somebody who has 500,000 followers, if they'll give me an opportunity to do a webinar in front of their audience, I would happily give them half the money, because it's found money for both of us. I've got an offer that converts. They've got an audience that converts. We put those two things together. The audience is going to be better off. That person's going to be better off, and I'm going to be better off. Don't resist affiliate commissions. And I see sometimes, people say, well, I'd be willing to pay you 20%, or I'd be willing to pay you 30%. Give them half the money. Give them half of the money. It's found money for you. And if you feel like you have to, double the price and give them half of the money, and you'll still make the same amount. So
Absolutely. I love that strategy. And in fact, as someone who does summits, that's what I'm constantly telling my students as well. Just do a 50-50 split, give them half. That's what I do too.
I have some affiliate offers where I give 70% because 30% of a big number is better than 100% of a small number. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So I'd love to ask you a final question on this interview about the final phase of your plan, your optimization phase, which is going on from days 22 through 30 of your 30-day plan. You mentioned a few things like webinar replays and making sure you retarget people to maximize sales, but I'd really love to get your thoughts on the actions that are happening during this final phase.
Yeah, one of the things that you want to do is you want to make sure you put a pixel on each one of your pages. You put your pixel on each one of your pages so that you can see where people stop going through your funnel, right? And so if people are coming to my lead capture page, but they're not going to my sales page, then I need to improve my offer, right? If people are coming to my offer page, or let's say they're coming to my webinar registration page, but they're not coming to the webinar, then I need to do some pre-indoctrination that gets them more excited about the content that I'm going to teach on the webinar. So optimization is really about evaluating all of your numbers and looking at where you can improve. If I've got 100 people showing up for the webinar and only 2 people are buying, then I need to improve my webinar. And a big part of optimization, the optimizing of the monetization aspect, is understanding the difference between convincing and persuading. And like I'm going to give the people who are listening 2 things that will really help optimize every offer they do from now on. Okay. First of all, you have to recognize the difference between convincing and persuading. And if you get good at persuading, you'll never have to convince anybody to buy again. Okay. And people, you've heard the saying, I'm sure, people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. Right. Okay. That sounds good, but it's just not true. People love to buy and they love to be sold. What people hate is they hate to be convinced. They hate to feel like somebody's attempting to talk them into something they don't want to do. Right. So, and that's not selling anyway. But people love to be persuaded. So I'm going to give you Myron's definition of convincing and Myron's definition of persuasion. So Myron's definition of convincing is this. Convincing is when you are attempting to get somebody to do something you desire them to do for your reasons. Again, I'm going to say it again. Attempting to get somebody to do something you desire them to do for your reasons. Persuasion is when you are helping somebody make a decision they already desire to make for their own reasons. And when you get good at persuading, what happens is not only do you not have to talk them into buying, you can't talk them out of it. It's amazing, right? So how can you tell the difference between convincing speak and persuasion speak? Convincing speak uses the pronouns me, I, my, and mine. My product does this. I have this many years of experience. I know how to do that. I'm good at this. Me, I, my, me, mine. That's the language of convincers. The language of persuaders is you get, you will feel, you will love, you get to do, you will experience. Persuasion is talking to the person about them. And the only time you ever talk about you or your product is as it relates to the result that they desire to get. That's the difference between persuading and conversion, and persuading and convincing. I can watch somebody's webinar and know just based on the pronouns they use whether or not they do great sales. And if they talk about me, my product, my offer, my course, my this, my that, if they do that a lot, they're not making hardly any sales at all. And if they are making sales, they're not making near as many sales as they would make if they talked to you about your stuff. And here's what's going to happen when you do this. And here's what you're going to get when you do that. And here's what you're going to experience. And here's what you're going to see. And you're going to love this. And your people are going to love it. And everybody that you serve, they're going to be blown away. So now I'm talking to you about you, right? And so now I can't stop you from buying. So that's the difference between convincing language and persuasion language. And the last thing I'm going to talk about optimizing, if you want to optimize your close, like when you get down to the point where if you're doing a webinar, you're doing your stack. If you're speaking on stage, you're doing like the offer part. If you're doing a Facebook Live, when you come to the part where you say, okay, this is what I have to offer, you probably notice that when most people speak from stage or a webinar or whatever, when they're doing the teaching part, they have really high energy and they sound very relaxed. They get to the part where they come to ask for the money, their voice changes, right? And the biggest mistake that people make when they get to the close, I believe, okay, is their energy goes down and they talk faster. Okay. And what you have to learn to do if you're going to make money, if you're going to make a powerful presentation and a powerful offer, when you get to the offer, you slow down your speech, but you raise your energy. And it's like you're not going to discover this accidentally. You're like somebody's going to have to teach you this or tell you that you need to do this, and then you need to have it recorded, and then you need to watch. You need to listen to the recordings, watch the recordings of how you do your offer. And when you get down to the close, slow down, talk slower, and raise their level of energy. So you're raising your level of energy, and you're going to get this, and it's going to be amazing when you experience this. You don't talk faster, because when you talk fast and you're talking about money, people think you're trying to get over on them. So you slow down. And the other reason you slow down is so you can make it crystal clear, because nothing becomes dynamic until it becomes clear.
Love it. Fantastic advice, Myron. We're actually already over time for this interview, but I'd love to give you one final opportunity to share with our audience any final thoughts before we wrap this up.
What's the most important thing I could tell somebody about business? There are a lot of business owners out there who have a lot of cognitive dissonance about being in business and a lot of cognitive dissonance about making money. And by cognitive dissonance, I mean they have internal conflicts. They want to make money, but they don't know if I don't want to make too much money because I don't want to be greedy, right? So there are people, believe it or not, who are in business, who sell stuff online or sell stuff offline, who struggle with this internally. But I want to say this: business is a good idea because business is a God idea. Like, you're not hurting people when you do business. I tell people the only reason any of us ever have any money in our pocket to do any of the things we love to do for ourselves or the people or the causes we care about is because somebody somewhere sold something to someone for a profit. Salespeople make the economic world go round. And I say we should pray for them every night when we go to bed and thank God for them every morning when we wake up. Why? Because salespeople make the world go round. People say, no, the reason I have money in my pocket is I have a government job. The only reason the government has any money is because somebody somewhere sold something to someone for a profit and the government took some of that money. But I'm a janitor. It's okay. The only reason the company you do janitorial work for has any money is because somebody in that company sold something to someone for a profit. Sales makes the world go round. Don't think that you're doing a disservice to people when you're selling them something. Understand that you are being one of the greatest blessings on planet Earth when you sell good things to good people and you're profitable.
I love it. Fantastic advice and wonderful words of wisdom to leave us with, Myron. Thanks so much for that. For those of you watching at home who are feeling like you are ready to embark on your own 30-day path to success, I have something incredible I want to tell you about. It's called the One Funnel Away Challenge. You can learn more and upgrade today to join by clicking the button on this page. It is going to be your opportunity to work directly with a ClickFunnels 2 Comma Club coach to craft your own customized and personalized 30-day path to success and get your next award-winning funnel launched. But that's not all you'll be receiving. When you upgrade, you're also going to snag some incredible bonuses like a physical copy of the 30-Day Summit book, where we've put together all of the written plans from all of the Summit speakers featured on this event, plus unlimited access to the interview that you just watched with Myron, and of course, all of the other Summit speakers being featured. And now this is my favorite part, a bonus behind-the-scenes interview with every single speaker featured on this summit that I have recorded with them, where they're actually going to be showing me via screen share inside of their ClickFunnels accounts how it is that they have set up their award-winning funnels. Truly, the value in those videos is out of this world, and I don't want you to miss out on that. So make sure that you click the button on this page to learn more about the One Funnel Away Challenge and upgrade today. One more time, Myron, thank you so much for being a part of the summit. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.